Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sir Hunt on X on this 18th of November of the calendar year 2025. As I'm coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States of America. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day today. Rainy and windy conditions over here. Took a nice nap right through it. But after a wild hoopla across the internet world regarding the same incident last night, I'm back at it, and now I'm going to go ahead and divulge into this a little more. Lots to get to. Fight week for my fight followers. Of course, it is Norman versus Haney. I'll give a brief preview of this. And two all-time great heavyweights with explosive exclamation point knockouts. I'll revisit those two fights at the end of the show. But today, of course, it is day two of the ongoing saga that's taking place here at Cincinnati. And once again, the cowardice of the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media reveal themselves with their panties all up in a bunch over a whole lot of nothing because the whole thing is over. It was officially announced last night that Jamar Chase was suspended for the spitting incident on Jalen Ramsey. And of course, per usual, everybody is in fireworks all over it and has wild opinions both ways about it. Let me go ahead and shoot this down again. I'm going to reaffirm the position. If you missed it last night, I'll reaffirm it again. Anyone who backs a man spitting on another man reveals your true colors of cowardice, despicability, and is uncalled for, and is simply a low ball act to where once you hit that low, there is no turning back. And that's where the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media have gone to after defending this. Look, nobody has said Jalen Ramsey is a saint. Anybody knows this. You're truly being one of them. And I know he has. I know the Steelers fans like him for whatever reason. That's we get it. We understand it. I'm all for that. But I'm not acting like Jalen Ramsey is the greatest human being in the world. But once you back a man spitting on another man, you resort to a low like none other. And because you go to that low, you cannot turn back. You're stuck at that low, and it's the end. Because simply put, it's not. We're not talking about a legal hit, illegal hit, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. That is out the window. Once you cross that path to do what was done last night, Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh, the gloves are off. We're talking about moral ineptitude over here, and there was a lack of it that took place Sunday when Jamar Chase did what he did. As I said, top fight player in the NFL, no brainer. I mean, he was probably frustrated because the Steelers were putting him on lockdown because they were focused on him after what happened in Cincinnati a month ago. But to resort to spitting on another man the way he did, and to resort to supporting him and backing him because he did it, it says tons about your character. It says tons about your values. And it certainly says tons about the morals you have because you certainly lack it. And no way I can back anybody. As I said, you can be my best friend or the worst person created on this God's green earth. If I see somebody spitting on another man or hearing about it, I'll be asking every question in the book. It's inexcusable. It's unfathomable. It's uncalled for. It's cowardice. It's disgusting. And it is despicable. No other way to describe it. And I could go on and on about the Bengals fans' behavior, which I've done basically all season. For the Steelers fans, you know what happened a decade ago when the sort of thing reared its ugly head. When we talk about what took place in that wild card game, you guys know it's the Montez Burfict whack Antonio Brown outside the head game in that wild card playoff here in Cincinnati in 2015. The behaviors and the cowardice of that fan base showed before, during, and after. When you talk about the cheering the injury of Ben Roethlisberger, throwing the objects onto the field, among many other things. I'm going to go into details because it's rather disgusting. I encourage everyone to look it up. And not to mention the same fan base who attacked Chiefs fans in 2022 after the Chiefs beat the Bengals in the AFC title game and accusing Patrick Mahomes of faking an ankle injury for whatever reason. And from that point forward, the behavior of the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media continues to hit new lows. And after what took place Sunday and how they've acted yesterday and so far today. They continue to sink to lower lows in ways I couldn't even imagine. And this is a guy who's seen a lot during my fight years, and I've seen a lot of lows in my fight years. Where you talk about all the things that went on in boxing. I never thought I would see anything worse than that. And the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media have hit that low every single which way possible. Never thought it was imaginable, but it was. When you defend an act of despicable disgustingness, like what took place Sunday, and you're all over the place defending it, and you're attacking a fan base who is standing up for their guy, that says more about you than it does them. And there's a lot of people in Cincinnati who has deep, deep soul searching that needs to be done. Case closed. And Mike Tomlin said it perfectly when he was asked about it. And he said it perfectly. You spit on a man, do whatever you got to do. Because we're not talking about, hard hits that draw flags. We're not talking about, roughing the passer penalties. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about a blatant, despicable act that has no place in the NFL. Kim Hayward said it best. You spit on a man, you don't belong in the NFL. It's plain and simple. Because there's a thing called boundaries you don't cross. There's things called unwritten rules you don't write. And all of that was broken Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh. And for a particular fan base and a particular city media, like the Cincinnati media, to outright go after and attack Steelers fans and Jalen Ramsey and the Steelers players the way they have on social media the last 2 days. It says tons about who they are at the end of the day. And they've hit the lows to where you can't rise from. And you shouldn't even try to rise from it, because if you come out and try anything else, you're a hypocrite. And then you have a bigger problem. You are where you are at this point. You've hit that low. You can stay in that low because your true colors have come off. The masks of the Bengals fans have officially come off Sunday, and it's going to be this way moving forward. And at this point, anything you guys say will be met with hard backlash, and I will be here watching it. And I will be having the time of my life, because I told all of you guys for the last several years, do better and be better. You won't. And at this point, you guys are a lost cause, and I don't know what the hell to tell you. You guys going after Steelers fans in the so-called rage bait on all of these social media platforms. It is also an act of cowardice. You guys are trying to defend Jamar Chase on some kind of a football play hit that you're trying to say it should have been flagged, which I don't know if it should have been or not. But that's nothing compared to defending a man spitting on another man caught on camera. And you guys can point fingers at anyone you want. And you can trash this Cincinnati intern who recorded it on 4K. That's not the issue. The issue was the incident was done, and that's all there is to it. It doesn't matter who recorded it. It doesn't matter who talked about it. If you did it and it was caught on camera, you were caught red-handed, and that was the evidence. It should have never got to that point, simply because everyone should have been doing better. But all the slandering is still ongoing from the Bengals fans to everybody, toward everyone in Pittsburgh regarding what took place Sunday, says more about them than it does anybody else. There's a reason why I sat back and observed it, because I don't partake, because I cannot defend anybody spitting on another man. I don't care who it is. I don't care what it is. If you have a problem with it, as I said, I'm not a hard guy to find. You're more than welcome to come to me, because I'll tell it like it is to your face. You might not like it, because I'm going to be honest about it. Defending a man who spat on another man, I don't get it. I thought it was bad. It's just as bad as Browns fans who defended Deshaun Watson after Watson got the trade from Houston to Cleveland after his off-the-field baggage. We know what that was. And the Bengals fans are trying to play copycat with it, defending a man spitting on another man during a game on a situation where it had no business taking place. Shame on everybody involved. But as I said, you guys hit that low. You guys hit that sort of bottom. You guys can stay at that bottom, because your character and the morals you lack in this life were exposed. What you took the mask off, you took everything off. That's it. Because anything you say or do from this point forward, everyone's going to remember this. Yours truly being one of them. Everybody's going to remember you guys backing a man spitting on another man, and that's going to be held against you for as long as you guys are living on this earth. We talk in these football chants. I'd probably say of all the ones I saw, maybe 10 at the most basically condemned it, and about another 30 to 40 of you just use this vague spitting is not okay. If that's all you got, you don't really have anything because you're still defending the act. You're still revealing your true colors. You're still showing your cowardice, and it's just uncalled for. I'm not sorry anymore because I can't defend it. I will root for the team like you guys do, but I can't defend you guys. That's the issue. I said this if I follow my shows and what I've said on the platforms. Excuse me. I repeat my stance. When you see this kind of an action, and you even for someone you like or call your own, and you're defending it, it's not defending it. It's enabling it and coddling it. Reminds me of the fans of Mike Tyson who defended his ear bite of Evander Holyfield in 1997. And the fight followers know about that one. When you profit something like that and enable and co-sign the cowardly behavior of someone like that, and that happens on the field, says more about you guys, even more than the act on the field. Yeah, I'll put this one to a close. I do agree with one thing Paul Denner of one of the Cincinnati websites said. Shouldn't be reflected on Jamar Chase's character. He can grow from it. We'll see what happens. But the one that real had the character hit was not Jamar Chase. I mean, he's already proven himself to be a diva who's sensitive anyways. The ones that had the real character hits are the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media who openly and willfully endorsed his behavior, supported it, and continue to support it because they show who they are as real life human beings at the end of the day. Nothing else needs to be said about it. I try to tell everyone this is not the way to go. Their cowardice revealed themselves, and because of it, that's why they hit the lows. And there's some people in there that need to have their life morals heavily re-examined moving forward. Because once you hit that low in this walk of life, like the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media did after what took place Sunday in Pittsburgh, you can't turn back. There is no turning back. At this point, you might as well stay in that lane because you set the new precedent for yourself. You guys set the new standard for yourself, and the bar has hit the bottom when it comes to being a Bengals fan and a member of the Cincinnati media moving forward, because that is something that I still can't wrap my head around. How could you endorse and support it? Grant, I know a lot of you guys hate the Steelers. I mean, I'm not saying don't suddenly become Steelers fans. I know you guys hate the Steelers. Nothing wrong with that. But to support a man doing what took place Sunday, regardless of who the opponent is, it says a lot about you at the end of the day. And it's time for you guys to reevaluate your life morals badly. Because that's just wild. I'm not saying I'm not saying Jalen Ramsey is a saint. And a lot of people in the NFL community would say Jalen Ramsey is no saint. I understand it. I mean, it's probably true. But that is not an issue compared to what took place Sunday and the incident that was caught on camera. Bengals fans want to attack the individual who caught the picture on camera. Newsflash, it says a lot about you guys than it does the individual. I mean, you just call it dry snitching. So what? The point is, the guy did it. Whoever did it, they were going to be caught. And anyone who saw it, they were going to report it. When Jalen Ramsey told Mike Tomlin, apparently at the sideline, it happened, the bet was off. Party was over. And I don't think Jalen Ramsey was going to lie to head coach Mike Tomlin for something like that, because a lot of people, before the official release of the video came out and the suspension was handed down, everybody, the Bengals fans in the Cincinnati media, was calling Jalen Ramsey a liar when the evidence was there. There you go. You guys just lost and lost bad. You can't turn back anymore. This is who you are at the end of the day. Your true colors came out a decade ago when you were celebrating a Ben Roethlisberger injury during the playoff game and throwing illegal objects at him. You guys were celebrating. Uh, let me back up. You guys were ripping and destroying Kansas City fans for beating you in the 2022 AFC title game, while you guys were attacking them and accusing Patrick Mahomes of faking an ankle injury, which happened, for you guys to know, it was a game against Jacksonville where it was a real bad ankle sprain, and Patrick Mahomes was going to play no matter what. Bengals fans in the Cincinnati media wrongfully accused Patrick Mahomes of faking an injury for that game. To slandering Lamar Jackson, and while he was injured, and Lamar Jackson comes back and you guys still can't beat the guy. And the capper was what took place Sunday. The behavior over the last 10 years. I mean, I saw it 10 years ago in person at the wild card game. What everybody's seeing is something these two I saw 10 years ago. It was only a matter of time before it really hit the explosive point, and it certainly did. Shame on everybody in Cincinnati involved. I mean, I know you love the guy, and I love your team. You know you guys hate the Steelers. I get it. But to support a man who spit on another man is an act of disgusting cowardice. And moving forward, you guys cannot turn back. You guys have hit the bottom when it comes to morals in life. That's all that has to be said. The subject is a wrap. Because I think some people already did. I'm wrapping it here. I have other things to talk about. Now to the world of boxing. It is fight week this week. Brian Norman versus Devin Haney. A lot of places, everyone's going with this. One of two things is going to happen. Either Devin Haney's going to gather himself and show the whole world he's still a top fight boxer, or the rise of Brian Norman, who's trending up and up real fast, is going to continue to trend up, and Devin Haney is going to be caught by one of those vicious left hooks of Brian Norman, and Norman's going to flatten him. I'll make my prediction at the end of the week. It's fascinating when you talk about this particular fight. When you have these sort of fights, both fighters are undefeated, and you have one guy who's sort of flattened out a little bit at his young age versus another who's on the come up the way Brian Norman Jr. has been over the last several fights. It gets very interesting what's going to happen. I've liked Brian Norman's attitude during the build-up, not getting caught up in the Devin Haney and Bill Haney theatrics, just keeping his cool and just telling it like it is, and basically just not letting Devin Haney get to his head. The guy's a headstrong individual, and you told probably the dangerous fighter in that division right now. Should be the favorite. I don't know what the odds are. Don't ask me about it. But should be the favorite. And as a result, I think this one is going to be better than people think. So I hear from everything from one-sided boxing lesson by Devin Haney to a one-sided beatdown for Brian Norman Jr. It's going to be close and competitive. Interesting strategy points both ways. I'll make the prediction at the end of the week because I'll say this. I like how Brian Norman has carried himself since this fight was signed. Says a lot about Brian Norman Jr. heading in. Not saying that's going to be the end-all, be-all when I make my prediction, but that's trending toward his favor going into this fight. It should be a better one than some people are making it out to be. We're going to find out how good Brian Norman Jr. can be. He's trending upward, and if he wants to really trend upward, he needs to win over an opponent like Devin Haney this weekend. Should be a pretty darn good one. In other news, it was Oleksandr Usyk vacating the championship belt and is rewarded to Fabio Wardley because of some governing body ruling. We have morons in the fight community who have now officially accused Oleksandr Usyk of ducking Fabio Wardley. Do you guys even know what the hell a duck is? I mean, if you're gonna call this a duck, please get the hell out of the sport, or I'll find you personally and handle you myself. Because calling this a duck is one of the most cowardly acts you could probably pull in the fight game. And that's why I walked out on some of you guys, and this comes from the mouth of some of the guys I've done shows with to use the word duck next to the name of Oleksandr Usyk. After he beat Tyson Fury in the second fight, he has a right to do whatever it is he wants. We're talking Oleksandr Usyk. pound for pound, the top fighter in the world, the premier fighter probably of this generation, he reserves the right to do whatever he wants. If you think that's a duck, I don't know what the hell to tell you. Because you guys, you're not a fight fan if you legitimately think Oleksandr Usyk did this to duck Fabio Wardley. Of course, everybody's talking about a third fight with Tyson Fury with him. It's probably a cash grab for him at this point, but he reserves the right to do that if he wants to. Again, I don't clamor for it because he already owned Fury twice. But to call this a duck was one of the most wild things you can come out of the mouth of any fight fan or anyone that does these sort of shows like I do. A couple of guys I've done it with, and to use that word that come out of your mouth, I'm rather disappointed. That's because it is no duck. Oleksandr Usyk is the #1 fighter in the world who can do whatever he wants. He actually, if I were him, after he obliterated Dubois in the rematch, I would just retire because he has nothing left to prove at this point. I guess what he wants to do is stuff his bank account, which I wouldn't blame him for it. I mean, anything that happens to him from this point forward, his legacy is already intact. That's all that has to be said. But to call, he's certainly not ducking Fabio Wardley, because what does he gain by fighting Fabio Wardley and giving him a boxing lesson, which you probably would do? Nothing, unless he's serious and wanting that belt back. But you getting that belt back, what does it do for him? So he can do whatever the frick it is he wants. Nobody is afraid of Fabio Wardley. Not even Oleksandr Usyk. Goes back to the fact that so many of you guys in the fight game lack the comprehension when it comes to the business aspect of the sport and all the power play involved with the governing bodies and how they want to control the fight game as it is. Oleksandr Usyk basically said, "I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to be approaching 40 here real soon. I have nothing left to prove. Here, you can have the belt." I don't blame him because there's nothing left for him to prove at this point. Too many of you morons in the fight game are the belt makes the fighter type, and that's where you guys fail in this fight community and fail badly. Because as I said when I talked about Subo Calabe a few weeks ago about one of his fights, he's the one that said it best. The belt makes the fighter. The fighter makes the belt, but the belt doesn't make the fighter. That's what Subo Calabe said, and he knocked it out of the park. And we have fight fans who ignorantly think the belt makes a fighter, and that's where you guys fail in the fight community and fail miserably and badly. Turn it around here a little bit, because there's no ducking going on here with this. I mean, Wardley was the rightful challenger for the title. Yes, he was. He earned it when he beat Justin Huney, and then, of course, coming from behind to beat Joseph Parker. Great, a Parker who was hooked on cocaine. But to say Oleksandr Usyk ducked him when he can do whatever he wants is borderline insanity and a despicable thing to come out of anybody's mouth. Oleksandr Usyk's afraid of no one. After he beat Tyson Fury twice, I thought he should have retired after the second Fury fight because he had nothing left to prove. But what he wants to do at this point doesn't matter. His legacy is already intact. The premier fighter in the sport right now. Let him do whatever he wants. If you think that's a duck, congratulations. I got some advice for you. Shut up, get off these apps, go to a local hospital, especially the ones in England who are the ones that are calling this a duck. Go get checked for CTE and just ask. If they ask why, tell them it's because you think Oleksandr Usyk is ducking Fabio Wardley when he isn't. Get the results, have them FedEx or email to me so I can see what's wrong with you. Because that is not a duck. That is no duck whatsoever, because Oleksandr Usyk reserves the right to do anything and everything he wants. Yes, Fabio Wardley worked up to that spot. I can't deny that. He earned it. But if Usyk wants to move on to bigger and better things for him, let him have it. Doesn't mean he's ducking. It's an act of cowardice by some of you guys in the fight community to accuse Oleksandr Usyk of ducking Fabio Wardley. Do better next time. And they wonder why I don't talk much of the fight game and I do this on my own. It's guys like that who make that kind of an egregious claim without any merit. Now to the historical aspect. This one took place over 52 years ago tonight at Cobo Hall in Detroit, Michigan. Check that 53 years ago. It was Joe Frazier defending the heavyweight championship against the all-time great light heavyweight Bob Foster. Basically, with nothing much to prove at that point in the light heavyweight division, Bob Foster took his shot at the heavyweight championship against the Joe Frazier, who just knocked out Jimmy Ellis to win the title. The spinoff of this one, nobody accepted Joe Frazier as a champion after Muhammad Ali was stripped of his title for reasons. Again, I think you know what the reasons are. I won't discuss them on my platform. But Bob Foster was one of the other ones who was looking to become the first light heavyweight champ to win the heavyweight title against Joe Frazier, who just obliterated Jimmy Ellis. And Bob Foster's in the midst of that great run as a light heavyweight, looking to make history in the process. But Joe Frazier had other ideas, and this fight was essentially over when the left hook from hell, just before the second round ended, put Foster down and out for the count. This is at a time when people trying multi-division titles in a different set of circumstances in the sport was a little bit more significant than, of course, we have it today, because, of course, we have belts flying all over the place. But back then, when you went from light heavyweight to heavyweight and you were trying to make history of significance, it would have meant something had Bob Foster pulled this off. But he was going against an outstanding buzzsaw known for that left hook, and Joe Frazier, and he ran right smack into it, and that was the end. There was nothing more to be said about that fight. But it was one of the many times, many light heavyweights who tried their shot at heavyweight titles. Back then, it was Archie Moore was one. Bob Foster was one. Of course, before that, Jimmy Ellis when he lost to Joe Frazier. A lot of light heavyweights tried and failed until Michael Spinks did it against Larry Holmes in 1985, which tells you with the bigger guys, when you talk about the bigger guys, maybe it's a little complex to go from that division to the heavyweight division and try to do this accomplishment, because there's a lot more variables involved when you think about it. I mean, you can do it as a smaller guy because the weight difference, I think, is like 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 6 pounds. That's one thing. Back then, you was making about a 20-pound leap from 175 to the near 200 mark. And that was going to be a challenge for Bob Foster, who ruled the roost as a light heavyweight, arguably a top 5 all-time great light heavyweight. But he met the standout Joe Frazier and basically just ran it smack into that left hook. There was probably a different variable involved. But then again, when you're trying against a buzzsaw like Joe Frazier, who was just whacking guys out with left hooks at that time, your chances were slimmer than none. Probably a lot slimmer than people thought. Bob Foster was a phenomenal light heavyweight. An opposing figure at light heavyweight, a 6'3" light heavyweight with the long arms, 80-inch reach, who could start you with a jab at his own left hook. But he basically wasn't a case of a fighter who was in over his head when he attempted to try to win the heavyweight championship, trying to make the leap when he was obliterated by Joe Frazier at Cobo Hall in Detroit. I mean, talk about Joe Frazier's place in history. Hands down, a top 10 all-time great heavyweight. I mean, part of the greatest trilogy all time in Muhammad Ali. Had the 2 fights with George Foreman. A lot of big wins. The 1964 Olympic gold medalist. His place in history was well secured the night he beat Jimmy Ellis. And of course, this win over Bob Foster would be the beginnings of the setup of the trilogy between Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, which began several months after the fact, March 8th, 1971 at Madison Square Garden. And we know how that one went. And of course, it was that exact same left hook that he used to knock out Bob Foster with that floored Muhammad Ali in the 15th round of the first fight to seal the win and a successful defense of his heavyweight title. That was Joe Frazier, Philadelphia phenom, who certainly an all-time great, probably the greatest left hook in all of boxing history, at least in the heavyweight division. Showed it here because I swear, when I saw the replay of this, I thought it was a decapitation about to happen, because that's how hard Joe Frazier starts Bob Foster, and it was the end. Bob Foster's an all-time great light heavyweight, but he had 4 chances to do something at heavyweight against Ernie Terrell, Zora Foley, Joe Frazier, and of course, Muhammad Ali. All 4 times, he just got overwhelmed. Maybe a fighter whose best bet was to be to stay at light heavyweight and just rule the roost till his career was over. That's essentially what he did after he lost to Frazier and Ali. But as a light heavyweight, we're talking as a light heavyweight, Bob Foster is an all-time great. Just when he went to heavyweight against the machine that was Joe Frazier, he was in over his head. If Frazier's an all-time great heavyweight, definitely in the top 10, probably the lower half, around the middle of it, 7 to 8 maybe. That's where I probably would put him. But probably the greatest left hook in boxing history. And to go to more modern, this one took place just at the start of the century. And this one, we talk about paybacks, maybe the greatest payback in the 21st century. We think about everything that took place earlier that year. It was the rematch between Lennox Lewis and Hasim Rahman. Lennox Lewis basically sort of was coasting, trying to get that make $1 million payday with Mike Tyson that everybody wanted. But something funny happened when he went to Johannesburg, South Africa in April of 2001, when he was starched by Hasim Rahman. Because even Jim Lampley and George Foreman, who did the fight, and they do all the pre-fight, conversations and the fighter meetings or whatever. Even it was shown on a documentary. The look on Lampley and Foreman's face, they could tell something wasn't right with Lennox Lewis when they were asking him questions, and Lennox Lewis was trying to answer it, which is what happened. How he got knocked out in Johannesburg, South Africa. Actually, Rahman hit him so hard, Lennox Lewis asked Emmanuel Stewart what happened. So the wild turbulence from the first to the second fight was where Hasim Rahman wanted to make a voluntary title defense before a Lewis rematch, because Rahman had signed a promotional deal with Don King. But Lewis took it to court. It was granted an immediate rematch because a rematch clause was in the contract. And the buildup for this got insane. We're talking about some of the things Lennox Lewis said about Hasim Rahman, and Hasim Rahman took it personally. It led to a fight in an ESPN studio, and Hasim Rahman tried to spin it off and basically call him a girl, among many other things. And you had a feeling a fire was lit in Lennox Lewis. Hasim Rahman was going to have a hard time putting out. And boy, that fire burned Hasim Rahman bad at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas in 2001. We talk about what took place 24 years ago tonight. The story of this one, the first fight was more a strategic fight where Hasim Rahman out-jabbed Lennox Lewis till the big right cross of Florida in South Africa. But in this one, Lennox Lewis said, the heck with it, I'm going to go get him. And that's what he did. First 2.5 rounds, he just peppered Rahman with the jab and the 1-2s, kept Rahman at bay. At the end of the third round, Rahman got a little offense going, but it was a fourth round, the left-right combination where Hasim Rahman's face, talk about smacking the taste out of your mouth. Look at the photo of that fight where Hasim Rahman literally has spit and sweat coming off his face when Lewis hit him with that right hand before Rahman hit the canvas. It was out for the count. And Lennox Lewis regains the heavyweight championship for the third time. Sometimes some fighters and some athletes need that fire lit in them, and I don't know why. And I don't know why Lennox Lewis needed that, because that's something he should have done in Johannesburg, South Africa, about 7 months before, when Rahman pasted him. What happened? Nobody knows. But at the end of the day, Lewis took care of business and got his title back. And Lennox Lewis, for the longest time, he was winning fights, but for the longest time, he thought something was missing. But maybe this rematch with Rahman, and what he did to him 24 years ago, was just basically him saying, okay, time for the whole world to see what Lennox Lewis is, and he showed it. The way he just pasted that perfect 2-punch combination, long left hook, followed by the long right, and Rahman just goes timbering down in the arms in the crime scene type position where the arms are out, the legs are apart, and he's putting a spray paint over the guy. That's what Hasim Rahman looked like when Lennox Lewis pasted him. And from that point, Lennox Lewis sealed himself as probably the greatest heavyweight in the post-Muhammad Ali era. Maybe Larry Holmes might have something to say about that a little bit. But Lennox Lewis sealed his fate and his distinction as the greatest heavyweight in the post-Muhammad Ali era. Because, of course, we know what happened. The 2 fights after that, he got the win over Mike Tyson, and then a life and death struggle against Vitaly Klitschko, where he won that fight on a stoppage due to a wild cut. But Lennox Lewis may be a case, and maybe, of course, a lot of fighters, but Lennox Lewis, maybe for a modern heavyweight, was a case of a fighter who knew how to get better as he got older, maybe one of those late bloomers. And when he got better as he got older, he found a way to perfect his craft. And when he got, as he was coming along, especially after the 21st century turned around, after he beat Evander Holyfield in the rematch, was finding ways to be better. And anytime he stepped into the ring, it's like as if the finished product was starting to come around. And that's what Lennox Lewis started to become. And you could probably say if it was the finished product when he took out Hasim Rahman in the rematch. Because that was the Lennox Lewis people would have liked to have seen throughout his career. Problem is, at times it was hit and miss, especially in the first half before Emmanuel Stewart took over. And it took the loss of Oliver McCall for Lennox Lewis to finally wake up. And from that point forward, he started almost like rebuild his career a little bit. And that's what he did. And the capper was 24 years ago when he just sent Hasim Rahman down to the canvas and literally almost like Velcro taped him to the canvas because Rahman was basically flat and immovable. And Hasim Rahman still doesn't know what happened to him on that day. Because that two-punch combination, Google the image of what took place with that punch. Because you want to talk about knocking the taste out of somebody's mouth. That's what Lennox Lewis did to Hasim Rahman, especially when you consider some of the slandering Hasim Rahman did to Lennox Lewis prior to this fight and the build-up going in. Because there were some wild things that came out of the mouths of both Lennox Lewis and Hasim Rahman prior to it. But Hasim Rahman took it to a whole new level. And Lennox Lewis said, okay, you want it? You're going to get it. And he got it. Lennox Lewis was driven to right that wrong of Johannesburg, South Africa 24 years ago in the rematch. And he did just that. And did it with a massive exclamation point. And maybe the only other fight in a rematch that had that kind of an exclamation point was the second fight between Joe Louis and Max Schmeling. But that one had other circumstances going around it. This one was a case of Hasim Rahman, 5 minutes of fame were up. He knew it. He wanted to prolong it. He wanted to try to get to Lennox Lewis's head. He couldn't. Lennox Lewis got to Hasim Rahman's head with that left-right combination, and Rahman's head got to the canvas, and Hasim Rahman's head was the one that's messed for the longest time. And what Lennox Lewis did made him certainly, I mean, you talk about all-time great heavyweights. Some people give him the distinction of the greatest. I don't know if I would go that far. It depends on your criteria. But I'll give him this distinction. After the Muhammad Ali era, the greatest heavyweight after the Ali era ended. I said only one that might have a claim to it was Larry Holmes due to Holmes' longer reign. But the fact that Lennox Lewis, in his two losses in his draw, came back and won those convincingly, basically can say he beat everybody he fought. Because, the two losses to McCall and Rahman got their revenge. The draw to Evander Holyfield, which everybody knows Lennox Lewis was robbed by Don King politics, and got the revenge on Holyfield to cap off the 20th century to become the undisputed heavyweight champion. The greatest heavyweight in the post-Muhammad Ali era was Lennox Lewis. Probably top 5 all-time great heavyweight. I would probably, if you want to put him number 3 behind Ali and Joe Louis, go with it. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. That should tell you just how great he was. For him to come back 3 times and do it the way he did it all 3 times says it all about what made Lennox Lewis tick. And the guy was an absolute phenom when you talk about what took place 24 years ago in Las Vegas. And that's why they call him the Lion of England, because when he roared, he roared. And he certainly roared 24 years ago. And there's a reason why they now call Hasim Rahman has-been Rahman, because that's what it was. And that's what Lennox Lewis started to call him after the fight. And he still does it to this day. Has been Rahman. And it fits him perfectly because his 5 minutes of fame were up. When he beat Lewis in Johannesburg the first time to win the title, he knew it. And that's why he tried to sneak a voluntary title defense. Even he wanted a piece of Mike Tyson, but that never materialized because Mike Tyson was doing whatever the frick he was doing. But when Lennox Lewis got him in that ring, everybody knew Hasim Rahman's 5 minutes of fame were up. And that's why he's no longer Hasim Rahman. He's now has been Rahman, because that defines him to much more perfection than call him Hasim Rahman. Of course, the next fight he's known for the fight against Evander Holyfield, where he had that hematoma about 7 foot long and 6 foot high on his head. But the 2-fight series with Lennox Lewis was the epitome of what has been Rahman, has been, and always would be. I mean, he has the punch because he's a heavyweight. But when he lost in electric style. We talk about getting knocked out of the ring by Oleg Moskayev in the first fight, to the stoppage against Steven Tua in their first fight, where he basically was in the hands on a 3-point stance you would see in a football game, to stretched out across the canvas position in the rematch with Lennox Lewis, to getting knocked out a handful more times, and even the second fight against James Toney, where basically he sat on the stool and wanted no parts of it. Biggest lockout was James Toney flunked a drug test. That should tell you what Hasim Rahman was all about. I mean, he had some potential. I mean, we talk about some of the heavyweights at the back end of the 90s. He had some potential because he had some solid wins, but never put it together. And you thought maybe after he beat Lennox Lewis, he might have been able to. But we consider just how great Lennox Lewis was. You got a feeling Hasim Rahman's fame was over. And Lennox Lewis made damn sure of it 24 years ago in Las Vegas. And that's why Lennox Lewis is a top 5, top 6 all-time great heavyweight. Plain and simple. I swear, I wish we could find another heavyweight we could talk about like this again. Because there's something to be said when you have the odds stacked against you. And I did not know this. I guess Rahman was a slight favorite going in. To do what Lennox Lewis did after losing his title in Johannesburg, South Africa, I think it speaks volumes to why this guy was a different breed made from a different cloth. I mean, you don't see 6'5" heavyweights go after fighters like that. And I said this about a month and a half ago when I talked about his gold medal win over Riddick Bowe in the '88 Olympics. And sort of the same could be said about Bowe. That particular amateur fight set a different tone when you talk about big heavyweights moving forward, because you never saw 6'5", 6'6" guys do the things Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe did. Maybe that amateur fight set the tone, and Lennox Lewis just carried it on better and more consistently to elevate himself to a top 6 all-time great heavyweight, especially with some of the night where he pasted Hasim Rahman to the fight after, where he just obliterated and starched Mike Tyson, and that was the end for him. Because Lennox Lewis just sealed his fate. He can do whatever the heck he wants. We have people who try to accuse him of ducking John Ruiz and Chris Bird. I mean, first of all, they're Don King fighters, and we know how Lennox Lewis's relationship with Don King was, especially after the fiasco with Evander Holyfield. Again, too many people are so obsessed with acting like the belts mean more than the fighters. And that's where I lost you guys in the fight community a long time ago, especially the ones I've done shows with in the past. You're still talking about the belts and the governing bodies like they meant something. They never did, and they never will. I mean, Lennox Lewis threw those belts in the garbage can because after he beat Holyfield, he one of the top guns. I mean, David Tua, Michael Grant. There's a couple of them. Hasim Rahman was even better than either of those two. And of course, the big money paydays with Mike Tyson and Vladimir Klitschko. Lennox Lewis sealed his fate as an all-time great at the end of the 20th century when he beat Evander Holyfield. 21st century came around, he could have done whatever the heck it is he wants. Plain and simple. Some of you guys need to stop tossing the word duck all over the dang place. You've done it with Oleksandr Usyk. You're doing it with Lennox Lewis when it comes to ducking John Ruiz and Chris Bird, which didn't happen. The only one duck I've seen, and that was Riddick Bowe ducking Lennox Lewis. There's no duck that comes closer to that. You guys need to rehash your history when it comes to the word duck. That's what I have to say about that. To recap, the Haney, got some new people coming in. I reiterated my stance on the spitting incident in Cincinnati. Again, it was I said all along that the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media stooped to a new low that they should just stay there forever because of their cowardice. I previewed the Norman Haney fight, which I'll make my prediction end of the week. It's going to be a good fight, but I just like how Brian Norman has carried himself throughout the process. And this idiotic claim by the fight community that Oleksandr Usyk would duck Fabio Wardley when he's not. So that's how everything went. I talked about the victories by Frazier and Lewis. The thing is, when you can get in with these two, the weird thing is this happened almost in the same day, almost 25 years apart. In the heavyweight division, if you can get that kind of a knockout, You bursted onto the scene, and the world was watching. That's what Joe Frazier did to Bob Foster. That's what Lennox Lewis did to Hasim Rahman. That's how the heavyweight division is. And I wrap this up here before, as I come close to the show for the night. Let me just say this. I'm going to backtrack to the earlier topic of what took place in Pittsburgh, because there's something to be said. When I tell people at the end of the show, make self-care a priority in life, I'm also for the intent of doing it without stepping over anybody's boundaries. And when you step on somebody's boundaries for whatever reason, and they come back at you, you cross a boundary, the gloves are off, and they're going to invade your boundary. And when the first time you cross that boundary, you stop making self-care a priority because the gloves are off. And that's what happened Sunday in Pittsburgh. When you take care of yourself, make sure you respect boundaries, because Jamar Chase obviously didn't with Jalen Ramsey. Yes, I said before, no one's going to say Jalen Ramsey is the perfect human being walking on this planet. I understand that. No one's saying that. But what Jamar Chase did just crossed a boundary that Jalen Ramsey took offense to. And because Jalen Ramsey did what he did to Jamar Chase afterward, Jalen Ramsey made self-care his top priority because he felt the need to defend himself in a way that he saw fit. That's the only way to describe it. And when you have, and I talk about this, we can talk about this in all walks of life, and I'll simplify this before I wrap this up. When you're defending anybody who commits an act that is as degrading and as despicable as what took place Sunday in Pittsburgh, it's almost like the equivalent of enabling a drug addict or enabling an alcoholic to continue to do what they do. And is enabling and coddling. That part is where, once again, a boundary gets crossed. And if you want to cross into that boundary, you're bringing yourself to a level that I don't know if you're going to be able to recover from. The coddling and enabling at some point needs to stop when it comes to what's going on here in Cincinnati. And there's also a lot of it in the fight community too. I'll drag you guys into this too. There's a lot of that going on with certain fighters in the fight community, and a lot of protection going on. I'm not going to name the fighters at this point. I'll talk about that later in the week, because this fight with Norman and Haney is going to have some interesting ramifications. But when you enable and gas up someone to get to a point to where they're doing things they're not supposed to be doing and crossing other people's boundaries, you become the problem. And what's gone on in Cincinnati with the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media co-signing Jamar Chase, spitting on Jalen Ramsey, they're the problem. That's why what took place Sunday happened. That needs to stop. And I can point to all you guys again. I mean, Zim's still doing it. We know Drew Garrison's a coward. He just still taking shots at Ben Roethlisberger unnecessarily. The captain and his wife, Sarah Elise, Kelsey Conway, James Rapien, Chris Rowling, all you guys and everybody else in the Bengals community, stop. Because it's over. On to New England. You're going to have your work cut out for you. And stop enabling the behavior. It's time for you guys to set your boundaries. Start showing some respect. I'm not saying you have to be fans of the Steelers, but stop enabling the act, because if you don't, you're going to hit that new low, which you already hit. I mean, you already hit that. You forget that. And once you hit that low, you can't turn back. And I myself don't want to deal with you because of it. Case closed. And on that note, that'll wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. I will be back tomorrow night. Of course, it's picked for week 12 of the NFL season. More of the Devin Haney, Brian Normie fight coming up this weekend. And as I said just a minute ago, make self-care your number one priority in all walks of life. That doesn't mean disrespect other people's boundaries. Just take care of yourself, stay within your own boundaries, and all the good things will happen. If you cross those boundaries or you don't take care of yourself, forget it, because nothing else is going to matter. Stay within your boundaries, stay within yourself, take care of you, and all the good things will come your way. If you missed this show or any other show of the past, you can watch it on the Spotify app, which does videos, or you can listen to it on the iHeart and the Apple podcast apps. And on that note, this will be a wrap. Have a good rest of the night. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and I will see you tomorrow.